Peace, you guys. I'm back with another one. So before we begin, let me give all honor and all glory to the supreme powers, the ones who blessed me with the ability to be here today and gift y'all with the message that I came to speak. And may the gates be opened. The resurrection is here and it is now being announced. The verdict has already been in. So here we are at the formal announcement of the resurrection. And so we call forth the energies that protect and align the divine seat of the Divine Mother, the throne frequency, the return of the protector of the throne, Asuar, formerly known as Osiris in Greek. And we asked and command that this space be completely protected and the grid be aligned with truth and justice as it is. All right. So hold on one second because they didn't upgrade his Zoom. So now I gotta figure out how to work it and all of these things. Okay. All right. So I'm here to speak on a few things in regards to some, actually, really, to be honest, I've already gone over these things, but I'm going to give you a more formal way of understanding it or understanding it. And the first things first, this is the cycle of the return. Who was last shall be made first, and the first shall be made last. And this is revisiting our remembrance of who we actually are and who we came from. Okay, one second, y'all. All right. So let me start off by explaining to you how we got where we are today. Remember, we are eternal beings, right? And when I say we, I'm not talking about the entire world, but I am talking about the eternity in which this world came from, right? We know the mother Aset Isis as throne. She is the throne. But if we were to break that down in a matter of understanding it in celestial bodies, we would say she's the source of all. Why would you do that when I just told you to sit here and eat them? Tap that. Pick them up. Go ahead. I hold you. Uh-oh. It's okay. It's okay, mama. Okay. And so when we talk about gods, no matter the religion, you could talk about Jesus, you can talk about Buddha, you can talk about whatever religious background you choose to, but there's always order in everything we do. In the most unorganized religious practice where you can do anything, and I'll say for the sake of who is here watching, I'll say Christianity in the field of practicing that, that is one of the most freest religions. All you have to do in Christianity is say Jesus and you're forgiven. It doesn't really teach you the formation of ethics in regards to spirituality, even though they claim to be worshiping the spirit. Okay. um And so, but even with that being said, there is still an order that they explain to you clearly in the Bible about the Trinity or the hierarchy, right? Everything has a hierarchy. The sun doesn't sit in the sky alone and float. The sun also comes from the source, which is the body that holds the sun. And we know the source is the throne. Isis are set. Okay. Now, if you want to give honor to the Supreme, you are going to have to do research and find out what this energy, right? For just to have a conversation, what this energy requires of you in order to go before the throne. Now, if we talk in the biblical narratives, we know that the Bible is a stolen book from the story that dates beyond that. So only fragments of it will be able to be understood or understood by those who have been gifted the light, or should we say, the mother's children. The father too, but when I say the mother, I'm speaking in energy, right? Because we know the mother is the elemental state of life. She is the first, she's the beginning of the life. Okay. And so that means that she's the one who will gift you with your primordial essence, which is spirit. She's the giver of how you become a god. Okay. And so now that we got that understood, I'm going to take you from the Bible and the biblical narrative over to Kemet or Atlantis and talk about Osset, Isis, and the throne frequency. I broke down a little bit of this when I talked about the lesson that I did that called the four elements, right? Which is more than four elements, but for the sake of that lesson, that's what I spoke on. No, daughter, I'm not going and get no popcorn. You asked for this. I shall know exactly. Okay. That's spicy too, though. That popcorn was spicy. And so let's go over there to talk about the first of the first, the mother, right? What? No, Bati. You stay right here with mom, okay? Um, Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, yeah. So now we shall resume. Now, okay, back to Isis. I said the throne. Okay, so back to the mother frequency of Set or throne. Now, we talked about the Egyptians. We only calling them Egyptians for us to all have a conversation. Let's be clear on that because we know that this was also the civilization of Atlantis. These were the Atlanteans. These were the eternal beings, okay, by many names depending on the civilization. Okay, and so with Isis being the throne, she would be considered the source. She's the source of all, so she powers all. Now, when we think in terms of Egyptian times, you see that the deities have on their heads the sun is honored, or should we say revered. It is a very powerful thing in ancient architectures. You see the sun disk, the rays, and all of this everywhere. Now, the mother had been speaking to me about the disregard for the elements. Many times I've come on here and I've talked about that. But what she said this time was real particular, right? Because we already was saying years ago that this time would come and what it would look like. But as more unfolds, we're watching it play out, but we're missing it because remember, the notion is that it would happen within a twinkling of an eye or it's a quickening, right? And it's because we know that sun and radiation go hand in hand. And we know that the sun is the light of what you see in your earth, in your earthly realm, right? But the sun is the son of her, okay? She's the throne that creates. Now, in Egyptian, they honor the sun or revere the sun as a focal point of what you see in the solar system. And so in your planet, the sun is the center of your solar system. The planets are in the sun's orbit. So we could say that the sun is in charge, right? Just like when the solar flares hit the planet, it's the sun. Like most of the things you see is powered by the sun. And this is the reason that the sun is so revered in a lot of the ancient cultures all over the world, okay? Not just in Egypt or Kemet. And so I said it to say we need to understand or overstand the sun, and we need to understand the power of the sun, right? Because when we speak in terms of resurrecting Horus, which is Osiris, we're speaking in terms of the sun, which as above, so below. Yes, women are referred to as earths, right? And we know that the masculine will be referred to as the sun, but you have been under a different solar system or sun system. This is why the basis of humanity on a regular lower scale oftentimes ask about the zodiac sign, which is a cycle that is only attached to the sun, not outside of it. Very rarely do you hear people talk about things that go further than that in regards to like uh astronomy and astrology, right? And that's because it is not something that everybody knows about, but we all know about the 12 zodiacs, or we could say 13 for those of us who on a whole nother level with it. Now, I say that to say that means that the average person is ruled by a sun system. Your seasons are changed depending on the placement of the sun. The zodiac changes depending on the placement of the sun. Everything in the average person's world is attached to the sun. Now, with the mother being throne energy, it is her job to appoint you to the correct sun systems based on cycles, due to the fact that everything goes on a cycle. The cycle y'all know about is limited to the 13 zodiacs, okay? But when she gets brought into the picture and she returns to her divine order as source, she opens up the field for you of the multiverse, but it is still with reverence to the sun. Let's go deeper. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Now, the reason that it is important that we talk about these things is because right now you are seeing a lot of people be, how do I say? When we talked about this in my channel on a couple other videos that I've done, we said that gamma radiation is just the light reflecting to show who is who. Now that the planet has been blasted, with gamma radiation, the reflection is become clear for those who have eyes to see. Okay. However, there's a lot of people who are practicing things, and it don't even matter what you're practicing. What matters is your heart. When I first came out to this platform, I harped on the heart and I never stopped. And this is not limited to everybody and not me. This is myself included. Why? Because when you talk about Mayat or balance or the alpha and the omega or the yin and the yang or the yin and yang, however you would like to look at the polarities in which this place is operating under, it all goes back to your heart space. If we talking chakras, your heart is the bridge between your higher self and your lower self. You can go up or down according to your heart space. Now, when we talk about solar, or when we talk about the sun, this goes hand in hand with your DNA, RNA, DEA, depending on who you are. Let me get some water real quick. So everything is on a cycle, but your DNA is the most powerful part of who you are due to the fact that that is what makes you eternal. Keep in mind, eternal means never die. Rest, yes, because cycle, right? But to live forever, right? You live forever through your DNA. This is the reason why DNA is put on an important stance when we're looking for who the father of a child is or whatnot. You never have to guess who the mother of the child is. Keep that in mind because she's the source. But it can be questionable who a father is. So in order to find that out, you would look into your DNA. Your DNA is either your limit or it is your freedom, depending on how your heart balances it. So many people are in error because of you and your DNA. I'm going to tell you why. What you practice on a lower scale, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Catholicism, spirit, and just whatever, it doesn't matter. It is attached to your DNA. Within your DNA is codes. Your DNA is nothing but codes, right? And it registers to the source or to the mother or to the universe as who you are in your light. You can become lighter on the scale of Mayat, or you can become more dense. And this all aligns with the codes within your DNA. A lot of us come out here, and I said this on my channel, like, even the name Jesus will be a curse for some people. Why? Because you have to know who you're worshiping, right? If I go into my mother's house, I need to know the rules of her house. I cannot, just because this is what I've been told throughout time, say, oh, well, I was told this by somebody else, right? This is my mom's house. And she didn't tell me this, but somebody else told me that I can come in here with my shoes on. Clearly, my mom's like, that ain't how we do it up in this house. You got to take your shoes off when you get to the door. I'm giving you this as a way to understand, understand the context of the dishonor for the eternal beings, or the source, the mother and the father and the son. All right, so with that being said, if you come to a throne energy wise unclean, you are being weighed. It may not happen directly on the spot. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. With that being said, we're going to talk about your source, okay, which is the sun. And we're going to explain that when you operate in spirit, it is connected to the higher celestial source. Whatever name, whatever energy, whatever practice, it is still the same source. How you view it is your view. Let's start off with understanding the sun. Okay. Bear with me because I'm still learning the new. I'm learning the new background. I'm learning how to do this new Zoom because they've upgraded it, so it's a little bit different. Um, okay, so let's do this. Let's put the sun definition in front of us. Now, this is the grid, and if your sun is what powers your grid, you need to know about your source, your sun. So let's see, let's get the basic definition of sun. Sun and solar refers to anything related to the sun. So we know solar and sun have the same meaning or the same root. The sun is a star located in the center of the solar system. It is a massive sphere of hot plasma. You have to get out of here. You have to go. Go play. Oh, you gotta check on my sister. Okay, give me a kiss and then you can go. Where's my kiss? What? Where is it? What's that? Okay, go throw that away. That's gross. So okay, we get in the meaning of star, sun, my bad. Because my kid came in here. Okay, and so the reason why the sun is important because your planet is being bombarded in a nicer way to say it by the sun. And then if you think of the name solar, we understand that soul is also pointing you to your soul. This is telling you that the sun has a lot to do with your traveling of your soul. Remember, you are just spirit in a body, but your soul and your spirit, two separate things, by the way, they travel. Okay. And when you guys practice spirituality, no matter the spirituality practice, you are bending reality to receive something in return. Far too often are we askers and not participators. We don't give reverence, and especially the ones practicing spirituality. That one is hard because I respect those who won't touch it due to the fact that they don't know enough about it and they have such a fear of it. And really it shouldn't just be fear, it should be reverence for it. Because if I'm going to come into a sacred temple or into a sacred thing, right? Because we know that spirit is a temple that has no physical body. We know that we need to have reverence for it because if we don't, we may not be practicing it in the correct way. Bear with me. Uh-oh. Okay, and so with that being said, when you say you practice spirituality, you are tapping into a grid. I did a lesson called The Grids in the Multiverse. It'll better explain the exact thing that I'm speaking on when I speak of this. So now, When we talked about there would be this apocalypse, right? We didn't it we all some people we thought that it would be this big bang, and yes, it's going to manifest in multiple ways, but one of the ways that it's manifesting now, which is one of the most powerful ways because it is considered an aspect of the unseen. Hold on, y'all, let me get into Okay, you guys, I'm back again. Let me get this back up here. The sun and definition. So it's talking about how even in Latin, it's solar has something to do with the soul. This is about your soul traveling because you are a time traveler based on the frequency that your soul can tap into. Now, this is why having reverence and knowledge for things is important because a lot of people consider themselves sacred, spiritual, etheric, and all these fancy ass words as a way to flaunt around this knowledge or gnosis of something much more than performance. Because performance does not evolve you. It is the actuality of reverencing and gnosis that will evolve you. Keep in mind, this is the sun system, right? But outside of that system is another system that evolves too. So it's never ending. So when we talk about eternal beings, we need to understand that these beings do not die. Everybody got different ankhs tattooed on them and in their bios and all of these things, but we have to think about the fact that Isis once existed in a physical vessel. Osiris as well. Horus as these spirits put on bodies. And so just because you don't know who they are due to the fact of the manipulation of the grid doesn't mean that they are not present. Bear with me. Okay. And so with all that being said, radiation and plasma go hand in hand, right? And so when we talked about the destruction that was to come upon the earth, we know that it wasn't just going to be uh, in the sense of what you would consider apocalypse, just based off of what you may have seen on a movie, right? Crazy, wild, chaos everywhere. It is happening that way, but it's happening in a more subtle manner to where it is not easily identified. However, this is some truth that the mother wanted me to drop on y'all. Sun and radiation go hand in hand. Why? Because when people see your aura, right, or your ether shine through your presence, they often say, "You radiating." We know the sun is a plasmic form of radiation, hence what we see right here in this definition. Now, let's go to evolution based off of Google and what they say. We know evolution is Eve, but let's talk about Isis or Eve for a little bit. Now, this is Isis or Aset would be Eve when she put on a physical body. And not only would she be Eve in a physical body, she would be Eve in a physical body in a sense of her having access to all of her being. Because we know that during the time of Egypt or Atlantis, we were powerful beings with the ability to manipulate reality by simply using our ancient formation, which is currently being resurrected. But anyway, let's go to evolution. Evolution in biology refers to the change in heritable characteristics of populations over generations, driven by processes like natural selection and genetic drift. It explains the diversity of life on Earth through genetic variation and adaptation. So this is telling you about your DNA. So evolution has everything to do with your DNA. I know a lot of people may not agree with reincarnation, but if you carry the same DNA as those who came before you, whether it be a grandmother or whether it be a mom, whoever, You are them. Maybe you are a different version of them, but the DNA will still link you back up the galactic tree to which we came from. Now I want to talk about plasma. Let's talk about the mother and Isis for a minute because she is the creator of the throne. Without plasma, which we just seen, let's go back to the sun definition. We know that the sun is a sphere of hot plasma. So plasma is 99% of what you call universe, okay? But let's talk about it a little bit. So the plasma is the state of matter which results from one of the other three states having undergone an applicable degree of ionization. Let me bring this word up because I didn't even peep this when I was reading, glancing through studies. Many times I've read this definition, but this just bounced out to me. So considerable, substantial, or significant. Who is significant in lighting your being? Who is significant in sourcing your gifts, which come from radiation? Who is responsible for making you a vibrant, radiant being? This will be the mother. Even in the definition of plasma, it is telling you spiritual hygiene about appreciating the mother. And why? How do we know this is talking about the mother? Because I just referenced the galactic tree, right? We know plasma. Let's read the definition one more time. Plasma is the state. Huh? Oh, okay. Let me see, daughter. Because you can't be on teach your monsters to read because that you're gonna mess up your brother's score. Okay, so let's read the definition of plasma again. Plasma is the state of matter that results from one of the other three states. Now, I wanted to just read up to the part where it said three states because what do we know about the number three? Well, the source, which is in the galaxy, which is your tree of life, into which your physical form came about. It is the three great mothers, Pistis, Barbelo, and Sophia. If you also want to flip it, we can say the Holy Spirit, which is the mother. We could say the Father and the Son as well. These all apply to the same state. Remember order. Whether you want to reverence it doesn't make it non-existent because even in your scientific definitions of the things, elements around you, it points you right back to the source. Now, while rarely encountered on Earth, it is estimated that 99% of all ordinary matter in the universe is plasma. Stars are almost pure balls of plasma. This is what supernova, this is who you're supposed to be. A lot of us call ourselves star seeds or spiritual lights, and we have no understanding or understanding of exactly what that would look like. Now let's talk about it over here. It says the clear yellowish fluid portion of blood, lymph, or intramuscular fluid in which cells are suspended. So let me say this. We know plasma to be something you can donate, right? If you donate it through your blood, which is it says here that it's 55%. 55, add the numbers up. Numbers are always going to be important. Equals 10. 10 is also 1. So this is also pointing you to the state of the magician because we know the magician is the first emanation of both realities. Or should we say it's when the world was spirit and matter, okay? Physical state and spiritual state where both were able to exist. Okay, and then it's telling you that plasma can bind you as well as it can evolve you because we just read that, right? Now, if you can donate this in your blood, this goes back to me telling you about DNA. The more powerful your DNA, the more ability you will have to create on a higher scale. Now, in reality of this world, the highest form of creation is a child, right? And we know that to be the most purest form because they are innocent, so to speak. Now I'm gonna go read to y'all out of the Keys of Enoch because this is where the mother took me. And we're gonna introduce to you guys Asar or Adam. First, let me read this because this is telling you why when I say that we are in error, when I say that we are in error of how we are reverencing, when you think of repentance, it is supposed to be the state of getting clean and not repeating the same thing. It ain't about do what you want as long as you say I want to be saved, or if you say a certain name, you're free. And often spirituality will get you wrapped up more so because you have overcame being thinking that God is outside of you. But that's also a gift and a curse due to the fact that you can sit too highly on yourself. Your ego can get a little inflated because you've grown beyond a certain part. And in order to be the balance that Mayat is telling you your heart is weighed on, you need to be balanced in yourself. Okay. So I'm reading this out of the Keys of Enoch, and the key is 308. Peep how 8 and 3 make 11. This is Mayat, justice. Even on one side, one over here, one over there. And I'm going to highlight this key. I'm really only reading this key to give you the background of what I'm speaking of and why I'm talking about matter and different forms of matter, whether it be plasma and radiation, evolution, solar, all these different aspects or elements. Okay. So key 308, I'm going to read the header. The keys to the abomination to the universe come to tell us, beware of the abomination of desolation, which is found wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held in disrespect before the assembly gathered in the name of the living God. It's telling you about what I just read in the definition of plasma. Okay. Do you honor it or you don't? Now I'm going to start with verse 1. Key 308 is coded, this key is coded as 308 to mathematically explain the signs given in the scriptures of light, marking the end of the third three-dimensional light consciousness of the old gate and the beginning of the eighth, the sign of the infinite, the light consciousness of the new age. Now, you could say the three is back to the plasma definition, the three states, the first three states, the Trinity, and the eight for the key, 308, because it's telling you that even the number is mathematically coded. The eight being the infinite loop, which we know is the state of, we could say this is the state of whew, goodness. Okay, we say this is the state of Kemet, or the state of the magician, because we know over the head of the magician is the infinity loop, but we also can say that it is the state of the mother and the father. But let's keep on. Man will find within the scriptures of light the actual mathematical codings needed to transform matter into consciousness light. This goes back to what I'm telling you about these estates or these elements, right? Different states of matter, because this is breaking it down on a third dimensional level by using plasma as a reference to blood. It is telling you about how you transform these things into consciousness, which is your evolution. Let me continue. It will become apparent to men that organized religion has shown disrespect for the ancient scientific scriptures of light. For this reason, organized religions who promote priesthoods of man at the expense of scriptures will be seen as the abomination of desolation. because they sit in the place of the Lord God, proclaiming themselves as the force and the authority of Christ. These authorities neutralize consciousness, causing neutralization of spiritual growth. So, this not having the gnosis of how to reverence, give honor to the supreme power in which these religions come forth is the same reason you or we have been in trouble multiple times, because we live in a free will universe. Earth is a free will planet, okay? So this means that you have a right to do as you please, but that does not give you no consequence. Everything is operating on a law of polarity. So what you put in is what you will get back. And what you find is when you become indoctrinated by religious dogma, and I'm not just talking about under a segment, that ain't just religious dogma. Religion is a practice of a ritual, something you do consistently, right? That could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be defined as Christian. If you start to act in a religious way, impure, impure, right? Because your heart is the space that you're activating in. This is what's going to cause you to not use these elements that were gifted to you by these multidimensional parents. Really, the source is the mother, but the father put in on the physical creation. It causes you to not honor that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because you are asking, you become someone who now is just an asker. You are not a part of the eight, right? Because we know the eight is the infinite loop, but it doesn't end. It's continuance. But if you are just the asker, you no longer are putting in, so you stop being able to be a part of evolution with knowingly or unknowingly. You become neutralized. Okay, let's continue. Um, okay, so literally the nullification of ongoing inner consciousness, which was brought by the Christ. Let's say this, brought by the Christ is telling you that you as a child have to do the respectful thing as a child, and you have to abide in the ways of your parents, from your aspect of your father to your mother, okay? And your parents, due to the fact that you claim you spiritual, or if you don't, your parents emanate from something that doesn't end. Now I'm gonna jump here to verse 18 in this key, and then I'm gonna go somewhere else. Okay, so people will speak of the scriptures, but they will not understand the codes. Their consciousness will be crucified to the cross of time. Remember, I told you your solar system operates under just that sun, okay? In order to escape that sun it can be a teacher to you, or it can be your prison based on consciousness, right? Because if you can't escape out of that zodiac, you will not you will continue to cycle around it, which is regeneration, but it's also something you don't want to stay stuck in. But it can also be a tool to teach you. Each time you incarnate, you learn something new. Activating your remembrance or your gifts of evolution will allow you to utilize that to ascend versus staying stagnant or stuck to a consciousness time zone. Right now, the consciousness time zone is your solar system that bounds you. And so you'll be crucified by the cross of time. That is the cross of time, the 12 arcs. If you study tarot in the cards, the 12th card is the hangman, and the hangman is literally you on the cross. However, it is upside down. So it's also energy that can be transformed, or it can hang and just hang, right? Okay. And so the resurrection, so the cross of transfiguration will not be able to operate within them to reveal the revelation of God that must come to pass to break the seal of the old age. They will not appreciate the scriptures of light because they will understand scripture only in the terms of mythology. From the teachers who are speaking from a historical standpoint, being oblivious to the higher spiritual truths. Side note, they're not oblivious, but anywho. Okay. There was something else in here that I wanted to read, but until that comes back to me, I will. Okay. All right, y'all. So I have more in this book, but the mother has not given it back to me right now. It'll come back whenever she needs me to read that. But right now we're gonna move on. So this is telling you what I was just telling you. Now let's go into talking more about the Father because we are at a state of resurrection for both emanations. In Isis's standpoint, it is more of a ascension, right? A return back to your source. But for the Father, right? It is the activation of him back into his rightful position of throne. And are we not transforming matter? We know the Father is the first state of matter. Okay, hold on. He is the first state of matter before the child because this is this is why the scriptures in the Bible have to be interpreted correctly because when it tells you about putting your husband and wife before your child, it's talking about an elemental state because in this room, on an earthly level, when you create, it's the parents who create the child. But when you're talking about the spiritual aspect, or we can talk about it in an elemental state, we know that they were both created at the same time. Let's talk about atoms, right? Because we know atom is another word for atom, okay? What is this right there? So I brought this up to bring you back to what I just said about how Adam or how the Father is the first state of physical matter because he embodies structure, right? Masculinity is an energy. The vessel in itself, the masculine vessel, it is born with a higher state of physical strength. So it's telling you that it's predominant in, one second, is predominant in protection because that is the estate that it was brought here to do. Right. So the man, or when you talk about in the still portion, it says, your mother and your sisters, women will have a spiritual strength over you while you will have a physical strength over them. So basically knowing the roles of what we came to do. This is not to say that a man who is masculine cannot have spirit because the father was multi-dimensional, just like she was. Okay, so let's talk about we came to evolve humanity. So this means that this is telling you the celestial story of evolution of the Father. It honestly, if you really want to break it down to a lamer term, this is the resurrection of Osiris. Okay. Now let's look at the atomic number. It registers as one as hydrogen. If you look at, let me get that for us because why not? If you look at the if you look at a depiction of any most of the pictures you will see Osiris, he is green. Because this is telling you that this is the activated man with Eve's or the spirit's essence. Okay. So why would he be green? Because we know the heart chakra is green. So this is the love man. This is the man with enough masculinity. Listen to me when I say that. To love. Because love is intelligent light. But let's go here. Let's go back. I just want to show y'all that real quick. Now, in the atomic number, it references as the number one. I just told you guys that spirit is an essence that is zero. Matter is the essence of one, and we know matter is a part of the atomic state. We know atom is many forms in different levels and what elements state, but we know atom for just to make the conversation flow a little better. We can call atom mass, okay? So we can call atom physical. And we can call Eve spiritual, which we know, but let's just have this conversation. So now what version of the atom is the hydrogen? Okay, 1 second, baby. Here I come. Y'all give me a second. I gotta let my child. Okay, y'all. So let me bring my screen sharing back up. I'll make sure I'm supposed to be sharing my screen. Amos. That's interesting. Okay, you guys, give me 1 second. I gotta bring all my stuff back. I don't know how it got all cleared out. Okay, you guys. Listen, the mother just deleted all my stuff on my screen because she wanted me to come back better, and I just found some more information for what I'm in here speaking about. Okay, so we going back to talking about Adam, or we can call him for the sake of this lesson, Asar, right? Now, we just showed the hydrogen as an atom. I did hydrogen due to the fact that it is the first atom. We know the atomic particles are many, but we know on the chart that hydrogen is first and is colored in green, which is a significant factor of Osiris. Now, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen real quick. Okay. Um, And I'm sharing it as a background because I just like the way it looks. This is just my preference. Okay. And so when I bring this up here, we see the value is one, which is first, and then you go down the chart and the list. Look at how look at how the color chart is colored just like your chakras. Okay. Now, we see the number one, and we also see eight, which we just talked about from key 308 in the keys of Enoch, the infinity loop. But we also see one, and we know eight and one make nine, which is right back to the source of the feminine, the mother. But okay, I'm gonna leave that where it's at. Then what I want to do next is define hydrogen. So let's get a little bit of description of what hydrogen actually is, because we know hydrogen is important in this physical realm. Hydrogen is a chemical element. It has a symbol of H and an atomic number of one. It is the lightest, most abundant, listen to this, chemical element in the universe. So this is telling you that Adam is all throughout the universe, okay? But this is their creation, Adam and Eve. And then it says constituting about 75% of all normal matter. So 75% is quite a big number for it to be for all matter. But also 75 take you back to the number 12, in which we know, those of us who read the hieroglyphs and tarot. Okay, hold on, let me go get my daughter. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Hold on. Here you go. And so 12 again is the hangman, but well, I hate to do this, but y'all know how I appreciate coded drops no matter who the messenger is. But this go back to Beyonce got a song called Tyrant. She said, hide your man when the hangman come in town. And she's telling you in code through song that the hangman is evolution. Because if you don't have the ability to transmute through consciousness these elements into a pure state, it will hang you. Okay. But when the mother comes, she resurrects the father who frees the physical form because through Horus, he's the rebirth of the child, okay? Which can be we're gonna leave it alone. I don't want to go no deep in that. But anyways, back to the number 12 of all normal matter, standards, conditions, and things that I don't need the rest of that definition, but this is telling you how important hydrogen is. But keep in mind, it is the number one, which is the magician, or the first state of matter. And it also is colorless, odorless, non-toxic, highly combustible gas under standard conditions. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear the resurrection of Osiris or what? Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna jump over here to a definition for us because I feel like we hear many names, and I always tell people that everything has a little bit of truth in it. So even if you go Greek, you can still find some form of significance in the codes of where they stole their stuff from. Let me go over here and share this part of my screen. Uh-oh. Well, how about this? So this is being made blameless again. This is teaching you about what all of y'all should have known, no matter what practice, in regards to spiritual hygiene. Because we be claiming certain things and we don't have enough reverence for those things that we claim. Okay, this part is what I want to show y'all. Look at this. This is the definition according to a serpent that I got off of the AI. So, take what you will from it. So it says Asar is the original ancient Egyptian name for Osiris, the deity of afterlife, resurrection, and agriculture. We can think about agriculture due to the fact that we just talked about the elements in regards to the earthly planes. That still goes under agriculture. Because without hydrogen, you wouldn't have nothing, really, in a physical sense. So it says it translates to Lord of Silence, Lord of Love, or he who is permanently youthful and benign. Embodying themes of renewal. Didn't we just talk about the blameless aspect of it? Okay. It says it represents perfect, divine, and enlightened human spirit. Because we know when we talk about the first physical being, everybody says it's Adam. And here's the kicker. They're not wrong because Eve is the elemental state. She is not exactly physical. Okay. Let's continue. So then it says down here, the origin, the name derives from Kemet, ancient Egypt, often written as Wasar, Asar, which was later Hellenized by Greeks to Osiris. He was a king or a god betrayed by his brother, Set, and resurrected by his wife, becoming the judge of the dead. Okay. So if we know Adam to be the material state or the state of mass or matter, then why wouldn't he be the judge of that very thing? The problem with the overthrow by Set was that Set can only power one cycle. Everybody, this is Earth. This is the school of life. So we, by law of polarity, have to have a challenging aspect so that we can be judged to be able to evolve again. Let me go back to my Okay. So I'm back over here at hydrogen. I don't need to read nothing else out of that. But now that we understand hydrogen as the aspect of what it is, we know why it was green. We know why it was considered blameless. We know why it's odorless, non-toxic, and we know we know that this is an aspect of who we just spoke about, Osiris. So now I'm going to read again out of the Keys of Enoch. I ain't going to share it on my screen because I just didn't have it at that moment. But I'm going to read out of Key 310. This is such a deep key. Y'all go read this key. So we're going to read a little bit about the water, which we know Isis represents the water. So, well, one of her aspects is spirit, and we know spirit is often associated with water. 310 in the Keys of Enoch. The keys to the universe come to tell us this universe will be drawn into the spiraling radiations of light. Now, we know that the spiral is a vortex, it's portal energy, it's life changing energy. It can also be you never being able to get off that wheel, okay? But it also can evolve you into your next evolutionary state. So, let's see. Like water drawn out of the well, the evolutionary membrane will be extended beyond negative systems of reality and attach itself to the membrane radiations of the evolutionary membrane in the next light zone of light, which will attach itself to light like two conic sections synchronized into spiral nebula. Glory, 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 glory. First of all, key 310 is 4. 3 plus 1 is 4, which is the heart space. The heart chakra is your fourth gate. And then it's telling you that two conic sections synchronize. So this is two things coming together to form one formation. We could say that is Adam and Eve. Or Isis and Osiris, or Aset and Asar. Okay, and then it says into a nebula, aeons will travel through light radiations into throne energy. Who is throne, y'all? Aset, which creates star universes like waters running eastward under thresholds, the house of many mansions. So this part of changing energy, this is verse 2, by the way. I was gonna read, okay, let's read a little bit of verse 1. The universe is one house of many mansions, and Metatron explained to me that our entire universe is going through a vast leap, quantum leap, into a new light creation, whereby super galaxies and super spectrum, I don't read all that, but basically gas giant planets and Earth type planets will be raised into a new energy level. What did I just read to you guys? We know hydrogen is also a gas, okay? I just read to you that it's the purest form of that. And I also told you that we also know that water is made out of what we call H2O, which also has the aspect of hydrogen within it, or water on our planet. And it says this is a part of changing energy network which purifies itself. This is the consummation of the eons. That is the ascension of the universe. Now this, okay, so now that we got that, I want to jump into a definition of back. I want to go back to plasma because this just told you about radiation, and we know that radiation in its highest form is plasma, or we know that the emanation of plasma has to do with radiating and being in a radiated state. So let's read the definition one more time. It says the clear yellowish fluid portion of blood, um, or intramuscular fluid in which the cells are suspended. It differs from serum that it contains fibrin and other soluble clothing elements. I gotta bring this up because it's like a small on my screen. All right. So now that we go back to the fluid aspect of blood, which is speaking in regards to your plasma state of your physical blood, I'm going to read to you key 310 again, but I'm going to start at verse 16. I saw how the Father quickens through his kingdom through tremendous orifices, which is funny because orifices and Osiris, and tubes, and how he allows the liquid state of his creation to move upward and pass through the tubes and converge with other forms of material creation. We just read the liquid state right here, okay? I'm breaking it down for us. Therefore, flowing pulses of energy are gradually quickened until they meet with an overriding conic section of light, which synchronizes the energy into a spiral nebula of light zones. So this is telling you about how the creative force will come forth. Now, I have to go over here to break down the Adam version a little bit more because I skipped over this when we talked about Adam and Asuar and the definition of the name. Asuar is also another name for Lazarus. So when we talk about the quickening, which we know is in the Bible, and in the Bible is where we get the name Lazarus. We oftentimes, being that we have been taught to view the Bible only in a third dimensional state, we skip over the process in which resurrection or ascension occurs. And so when we look at the story of Lazarus, we don't look at it in a deep meaning regarding consciousness, which consciousness is the way you transform or evolve. But let's talk about how Asar is another name for Lazarus. Let's read the definition in the Metaphysical Bible of Lazarus. Okay. So, whom God helps, succor of God, assistance of God, grace of God, not of help, and without help, without succor, helpless. So, in this form, Greek or Hebrew, he is considered the helpless. We're going to continue and get that on that. The true Hebrew derivation of Lazarus is disputed. Some consider it to be a form of Esliner, meaning whom God have helped. Others believe it to be derived from Lozar, meaning without help. Let me see. Okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. The name of the beggar in one Jesus parables, a friend of Jesus and a brother of Mary. Now, for those of y'all who don't know about the ancient Egyptian culture and the Tao Te Ching, go ahead and go look that up. I won't do a lesson on that because this is too much for right now. But it's telling you about him being a brother of Mary. And oftentimes we hear Osiris is the brother of Isis as well. They call him the brother, lover, husband. That's what he's called. So this is telling you who Lazarus is. Yeah, I see, Mama. And it says whom Jesus raised from the dead. We know Jesus is Isis. Let's just get that clear. Okay, so this is telling you who Isis raised from the dead. Okay, so Lazarus refers to a part of the consciousness that is helped by the good, though apparently uttered and neglected by the man itself. This is the whole process of ascension, because we could say Lazarus is all of humanity, right? Because majority of humanity is going to neglect the thing that is needed, or the hygiene, or the reverence, or the honoring of consciousness. We could say that light or elemental states and atomic states are consciousness in different forms. Most of humanity is not going to honor it. And the reason is not because it's not in them to honor, it is because it is something you have to seek. Because of the fact that the throne frequencies were not in position of authority at that time. You were being put in a place to be under the rule of Set or ego. Okay, the god of ego. And so here it says, Jesus describes the states of consciousness of one who passes through the change called death. The rich man and Lazarus represent the outer and the inner consciousness of the average worldly minded person. The outer consciousness appropriates the attributes of soul and body and expresses them through senses. So through your five senses. Okay, daughter. So this is why I said we're in trouble for not honoring the Supreme, is because a lot of us flaunt around our position and what we practice as a badge of honor through outwardly expression, not understanding or understanding or overstanding that your heart being purified is your way to resurrection. Meaning you can operate however you choose to, but when you become nuanced, it is your duty to be equalized or become equilibrium to contribute to the state of evolution. It's not just for you wanting to be seen. It is to offer something back to the Supreme that has gifted you with everything. Because we don't ever ask ourselves, when I go to the prayer altar of ISIS or whatever you decide you want to call it, when I go to the prayer altar, what does it take for this being or this entity or this spirit to go out and create what I've asked of it? So if you asking for a new car, a better job, or whatever it is, what is the process that the higher spirit you're praying to has to go through to bring these things to you? And when you start thinking like that, you start wanting to be less of an asker and more of a contributor to your own element. You start assuming your role in evolution. So it says he was cloaked in purple and fine lining. I don't need that part. Material selfishness starves the inner man. And what is this? Devitalizes the true or, which is another form of becoming materialistic, or we could say devil, the true or spiritual phase of the soul and body, which is described in the sentence. Okay, we're gonna skip over that because this is extra. We just need the meat. Okay, what is the part? It's a part in here that I wanted to read before I moved on. Um, Okay, when death overtakes such a one, both the inner and the outer change environments. The material avenues are lost to the outer. The carnal phase of the soul itself finds the soul finds self in hell or in animal desires. This is how you evolve from these desires without flesh, without the flesh through which to express. And in Hades, he lifted up his eyes, being in torment. Now, let's keep in mind that we know that being a Tartarian is a part of our lineage and legacy, as well as we know that IET is also has a portal or gateway on over there that connects you to what we call Hades, but we also know Hades is another name for Pluto. If you read the story of Isis and Osiris out of the, what is it called? I think it's called the, this is where I was reading it from, but I also have read it in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but hold on, let me tell y'all the name of the other book. It's called the Plutarch. That's another book you can read if you want to read more about the story of Isis and Osiris. Keep in mind the word Plutarch, okay? I came on here and my very first contribution to the YouTube community was Pluto and Ceres' long lost twins. With further research, we find that Pluto is Osiris, the god resurrected, and we find that, or death. Okay. And we find that Isis or Aset or throne is Ceres, which is also the goddess of rebirth and new. She's the one who brings the birth, he brings death, but you need both in order to experience evolution. Now, I'm done with the definition of Lazarus. And then I want to read. Okay, so let's talk about plasma and hydrogen together because we just talked about plasma, we just talked about hydrogen, we just talked about how Adam or Osiris and the resurrected state, which He is being described for all as all of humanity or as all states of matter, all the way down to the cleanest elevated state of matter, which is the first atom, hydrogen, okay? The green atom, the love atom, the flowing, the non-toxic, odorless, blameless version of himself, which he has resurrected into. So let's talk about that with plasma because we could say plasma will be the mother. Okay. Plasma is a state of matter. Okay, daughter. 1 second, y'all. Okay, plasma is a state of matter that consists of ionized gas, which can be used in various applications, including the production of hydrogen. So it's telling you plasma is a state of matter that can produce hydrogen. So we already know that the sun is a production or a product of a higher source. And then it says, okay, plasma technology. It is referring to plasma as technology. Plasma technology can efficiently generate hydrogen from sources like methane or water. Go back and watch my lesson. I don't know if I still have it up there, but it was about the Great Consummation where we talked about how a lot of the spaceships or motherships that they were finding was full of methane or water. Okay. We know that water is the mother, but let's continue. Offering a cleaner alternative to traditional methods often release carbon emissions. Let's go a little further with it. So it says the comprehensive review highlights the influential contributions in plasmic catalysts for hydrogen production. It discusses recent advancements. So this is how you advance in humanity in regards to a scientific way of explaining it. And then it says down here the key words are electrification, excitation, and things of that matter. But let's go to fire because we know that the Father is a state of flame. He is the fire in an atomic state. So according to Wikipedia, this is what it says. Fire is the rapid, hold on. Okay, oxidation. Lord, give me my words back right. Okay, daughter, you gotta stop touching stuff. Stop touching stuff. Stop touching stuff. Okay, fire is the rapid oxidation of a fuel in the exothermic chemical process of combustion, releasing heat, light, and various reaction products. Flames, the most visible portion of fire, are produced by combustion reaction when the fuel reaches ignition point and temperature. Flames from the hydrocarbon fuels consist primarily of carbon dioxide, water vapors, oxygen, and nitrogen. If hot enough, the gases become ionized to produce plasma. Back to the beginning again. So do you see how Asuar's resurrection is not just an aspect of masculinity. It is all. He's a part of the All Mind. So his resurrection into his throne seat restores the cleanliness of the frequency that we formerly known as matter or male, divine, masculine. Okay. And it is a partnership or a marriage or a vow of togetherness through what we call fire and water. And here's this stickler to it. When you mix both of those, you go back to the dew state or the steam. And this is who they are. Okay. So I'm gonna close with this last little scripture that I have in he's Enoch, still in key 310. This is I'm gonna start at verse 37. Go and see what the mouth is unable to pronounce and the ear is unable to hear. But do not number the heavens above nor the waters below until you have found the Son of Man within. Till you have found the resurrection of matter within you. Okay? And when you find him, say unto him, I don't know, I won't quote that. And look, the glory of God is coming from the direction of the east, and his voice will be like the voice of vast waters, and the earth itself will shine because of his glory. Come, let us rejoice as we go into a new house that the Lord has prepared for us. Daughter, you gonna have to stop. Chill out, okay? Okay. Thank you, Papi. All right. Shalom, y'all. So we got the closing of the age and the opening of the new one. I hope I was able to enlighten you guys on this in a good way, because I know that was a lot of information to break down. But I was really here to let the law speak. Why it's important for us to have this information at this time is because those temples where they talk about in Keys to Enoch, the connection of the pyramids and man is already happening now. And because we live on a realm that is governed by solar energy, you need to understand, like I told you, it's going to evolve you or de-evolve you. Right now, a lot of people are being diagnosed with cancer. And this is not to say that you can't be diagnosed. I lost my grandmother to cancer. But this is not to say that you can't be diagnosed to cancer because of the estate that surrounds you, right? Meaning your polluted foods and different things of that like. But there are also many people being diagnosed with cancer due to the abomination of desolation, meaning due to the disregard for the grid that you hearken to when you ask for things in prayer. Be mindful that it is your heart that is being weighed when you speak to the spirit, no matter what you call the aspect of spirit you speak to. If it's religion, if it's spirit, if it's a certain deity, if it's a certain name that you use, you are still tapping into grids that have already been claimed because they are eternal. And due to the fact that it is aligned with your DNA, you are supposed to be doing spiritual work. You are supposed to be doing cleansing. You are supposed to be doing lots of shadow work for the fact that the generations before you have came in different forms of yourself and did different tasks. And right now, your karma is going to be how you can escape the matrix. Can you cleanse that DNA? This is no coincidence to the fact that the cure for cancer is Isis with Horus on her hips, because it is their grid, Osiris and Isis, and they have returned again, and the powers are with them to remember. And that's all that they have to do in order to be positioned back into the place they originated from. And when that takes place, the weighing and the shifting of those who you thought you knew as Ramona in a physical vessel, you're going to find out by the weights of your heart if you came to the throne correctly. And with that, I'll leave you with shalom. Peace.